Chapter 86, Peerless War God. Good Dan, many thanks. A moment later, Kang Chon opened his eyes and swallowed the rest of the Dan all in one gulp. Instantly, the vast spiritual energy filled his entire danshan. He immediately operated the star-absorbing grand technique, refining this thick spiritual energy with all his might until it was all transformed into purple, true essence. Kang Chon did not pay attention to the fact that the two people on the side, Huo Xiangrong and Liu Suifeng, were staring at him in disbelief. Normally, an early-stage Jidan cultivator would be able to recover his true essence by swallowing one great restoration Dan. He won't explode himself if he swallows this much, right? Liu Suifeng said uncertainly. Huo Xiangrong also looked at Kang Chon, who was meditating with his eyes closed, with a face full of worry. Just now, before she had the chance to stop him, Kang Chon had already swallowed all the great restoring Dan, dozens of them. The two of them just watched Kang Chon meditate and recover with wide eyes. Soon, with the help of the star-absorbing technique, Kang Chon quickly digested the elixirs and his own true essence was restored. To 70%, he opened his eyes and groaned comfortably, saying, "What a good elixir," finally restored to 70% of his true essence. When Huo Xiangrong and Liu Suifeng heard this, they almost didn't drop their jaws. So many great restorative pills were enough to burst the two of them. Giving it to him even just restored 70% of his true essence. Was the inside of his stomach all empty? They're all so close to splitting up. Kang Chon didn't care about the shock of Huo Huairong and Liu Suifeng. His gaze at the moment was attracted by the battle between the blade and sword dual Jedi and the mad warrior Shen Tiji. Liu Suifeng and Hua Wanyong also hurriedly looked back at the words, only to see Shen Tiji's sword aura spreading across the sky. One person with a single sword had actually forced the blade and sword double Jedi outside the martial arts arena. The boundless sword aura raging across the entire sky before merging into a terrifying sword, momentum pressing down. Blade and sword double Jedis to brothers' faces were incomparably gloomy. The two of them had joined forces and were still unable to resist Shen Tiji's might. This crazy warrior's strength was too strong. At this moment, the only thing left in the martial arts arena was the battle between the sword and sword dual Jedi and the crazy warrior Shen Tiji, as well as the battle between the little girl and the black-clothed old man. Although the battle between the little girl and the black-clothed old man was very intense, the strength of both sides was equal, and no one could help anyone, so for the time being, it was impossible to tell the winner from the loser. Therefore, the crowd watching the battle gradually turned their attention to the battlefield of the sword and sword dual Jedi and the madman. They wanted to see whether the sword and sword dual Jedi teamed up to defeat the enemy, or whether the madman, Shen Tiji, was still strong in the end. A youth peak duel to the critical moment. The sword was so crazy, and the sword was full of spirituality. Teng Yijian, Teng Yijiang to brothers heart to heart, with a very clever. Between attack and defense, staggered, the two joined forces, their own strength to the extreme. The crowd watching the battle could not help but nod their heads. The sword double is never called in vain. These two brothers heart to heart, every move and every style is as if pre-negotiated. Coordination is very in place, make their opponents headache. However, all of this did not play much of a role in the face of the mad warrior Shen Tiji. This young powerhouse, who often talked to himself and was delirious, was incomparably strong, completely breaking the coordination between the two brothers of the sword and sword double Jedi with absolute power. The crowd was shocked. The strength of the crazy warrior was too strong. I'm afraid that only Kang Chon and Thundercloud could fight. The other few of the great Tang 7 could not even compare. One sword over heaven. Teng Yijian's face was full of gravity. The long sword in his hand blossomed with a brilliant light. The radiant sword chi rushed straight up into the sky, like a vast Yangtze River rushing in a majestic manner. The crowd was shocked. Such a sword, brilliant as divine punishment. Obviously, he was going to fight for his life. As expected, on the other side, Teng Yixiang and Teng Yijian were mentally connected. Seeing their elder brother perform a stance, they also hurriedly performed a stance. Immediately, a vast saber momentum rose up, and the unrivaled saber arms crossed the void, directly killing towards the mad warrior Shen Tuji. In the martial arts arena, the wind and sand were suddenly loud, the energy storm surging and stirring. In the sky, the sword chi was horizontal, the blade onings were unrivaled, two powerful forces, one left and one right, completely sealing off all the retreat of Shen Tuji. This battle will soon be divided into winners and losers. The crowd held their breath and waited, watching the two people fighting in the arena with all their attention. Swish! In the face of the two shocking moves that attacked, the divine sword in Shen Tuji's hand violently trembled, and then erupted with a blazing light. The entire martial arts arena was instantly illuminated, and the eyes of the crowd were stabbed open. It was incomparably bright and dazzling. Shen Tuji's entire body erupted with unrivaled sword power. A ground-shaking vast power emanated from beneath his feet, causing the entire earth to tremble. The crowd was horrified. What a powerful force this was. It was almost as if the heavens were shaking and the mountains and rivers were crumbling. Sword 1. Shen Tuji let out a low chant. The long sword in his hand instantly shot out a matchless sword chi pike, like a divine thunderbolt descending from the sky. The light was piercing and gorgeous. The blazing light intertwined to form a web of death against Teng Yijian's sword chi. At once the void trembled, the earth collapsed. The two terrifying sword chi clashed together, erupting into a brilliant light. They let no one let go of each other, sending out a series of explosions in the air, and finally returning to calm. And Shen Tuji's footsteps still did not stop. He took a step out, a dozen steps away. The long sword in his hand once again erupted with divine light, incomparably bright light, like a blazing sun. Sword 2. Shen Tuji's sword aura reappeared. Thick true essence surged out, surging energy like the Yangtze River, swirling out, rolling upwards against the tide, desiring to rush up to the 9 heavens. At that moment, the blade shattered, and heaven and earth roared. People were shocked, just as swords had dissolved the joint stance of the sword and blade dual Jedi. The power of the mad warrior was undoubtedly evident. This was absolute strength, without any skill. Teng Yijian and Teng Yichop, brothers face incomparably ugly. They could not believe that their stance was cracked just like this. However, at this moment, they did not have the chance to contemplate. BECAUSE Shen Tuji did not stop yet. He once again took a step forward and appeared not far from the sword and sword twin Jedi. And in his deep cold gaze, icy killing intent was shot out. Sword 3. Divine light shone brightly. Blazing sword onings swept through the air. Unrivaled sword chi swallowed mountains and rivers. And the entire martial arts arena was enveloped by this invincible sword might. Dang dang dang. An unbelievable scene appeared outside the arena. Those cultivators who were watching the battle violently realized that the long swords they wore with them began to tremble, and this vibration became stronger and stronger as the sword power on Shen Tuji became stronger and stronger. In the end, countless sword lights rushed up from the crowd, turning into a brilliant rain of swords towards the two brothers of the blade and sword dual Jedi, to kill them. Hiss! The crowd was all horrified. This scene was too terrifying. 10,000 swords roaring in unison. Shen Tuji completely called himself a sword god. The two brothers, Teng Yijian and Teng Yixiang, were instantly stunned with fear. The two of them were dumbfounded, as if they were wooden chickens. They didn't know how to deal with this terrifying move. Flower Thinking Wrong and Yu Sui Feng were also in awe, staring at this terrifying scene in a daze. Kang Chun's expression was cold, and unrivaled battle intent rose in his eyes. This Shen-Ji was worthy of being a powerhouse on par with Lei Yun. His strength was surprisingly so powerful. However, he understood that this move Shen-Ji had taken advantage. In another scenario, where would such a sword be utilized by him? Good one, Shen-Ji. This son ended up being born for the sword. On the high floor, the yellow-clothed old man, the blue-clothed old man, and the old blacksmith also sighed in admiration. Zhao Wuji nodded slightly and said, "Not bad. Wuji, do it. The Deng family's old piker is blatantly violating the rules and dares to strike at my Zhao family. Again, kill him, and the Deng family won't dare to say anything." The yellow-clothed old man suddenly said coldly. When Zhao Wuji heard this, his icy gaze looked towards the black-clothed old man fighting with the little girl, and his eyes suddenly flashed with golden light as his murderous aura erupted. At this moment, on the martial arts arena, the sword and sword double Jedi were faced with an overwhelming move and were caught in a life and death situation. Seeing this scene, the black-clothed old man uttered a cry of alarm and rigidly endured the little girl's coffin board blast once, but also forcibly withdrew from the battlefield to come to the rescue. He was ultimately a Jeden stage nuclear powerhouse. His strength was incomparably strong, not something that Shen-Ji could contend with, and instantly pawned off 10,000 sword attacks. However, he was also not well off. He was already attacked by the coffin board, and then attacked by the 10,000 swords. His injuries were even worse. "Hurry up!" He droned at the dazed Deng clan's two brothers, sending them out of the martial arts arena with a slap. And only then did the two of them react, fleeing into the distance in panic. Seeing this, the black-clothed old man did not care about his injuries and fled with his sword. Old man, where to escape? The little girl chased after him, but the black-clothed old man was too fast. Although she relied on the coffin board to be incomparably strong, her speed was still no match for the black-clothed old man at the 9th level of Foundation establishment, and she was so furious that she was suddenly wailing. The old man in black didn't dare to turn back, knowing that his injuries were no longer a match for the little girl. Where did he care about his face? He directly fled into the distance in front of the crowd. The crowd couldn't help but look disdainful. This old man dealing with the young man was already shameful. At this time, he even fled without any regard for his face. Truly, a man without a face is invincible. The old man in black didn't care about the crowd's thoughts. In his mind, saving his little life was important. Just, could he really escape from the martial arts arena? A golden figure stood on top of a flying sword, with his hands behind his back, and suddenly appeared in front of him. This was a young man, long eyebrows into his temples, eyes like stars. The whole person emitted an invincible aura that swallowed mountains and rivers. His magnificent figure was unattainable. The black-clothed old man was instantly stunned, rigidly stopping his flying sword at his feet. The youth in front of him gave him a very terrifying feeling. "Who are you?" The black-clothed old man couldn't help but ask. "The person who killed you," Zhao Wuji said in a cold voice. And then he blasted his fist. His fist power swallowed the mountains and rivers, and his mountainous energy caused the entire heaven and earth to tremble. The black-clothed old man was unable to retreat, and in shock and anger, he was struck by a fist. The fist blazed like a golden sun, emitting a fiery light. The matchless energy was like a monstrous wave rolling up in the ocean, rushing about. The black-clothed old man was immediately sent flying out, spraying blood from his mouth. As he looked at the youth in front of him with a face full of shock, an unbelievable look in his eyes. "War God Fist, are you?" Before the black-clothed old man could finish his words, Zhao Wuji had already taken a step and appeared in front of him, once again blasting down with a fist. "Bullying the small with the big, you deserve to die," Zhao Wuji said coldly. His fist power was like a vast flood, ruthlessly rushing towards the black-clothed old man. The power, like the waves of the sea, caused the space in all directions to tremble. The black-clothed old man was once again sent flying. His chest was caved in. Blood sprayed wildly from his mouth. He was filled with despair, facing this terrifying youth in front of him. His strength at the 9th level of Foundation establishment was completely suppressed. Offending my Zhao family, you deserve to die. Zhao Wuji once again stepped into the air and blasted out his third fist. This fist shook the sky, and the entire sky was covered by the unparalleled fist power. The vast and incomparable power caused the entire sky to lose its colors. The golden light dazzled. The black-clothed old man cried out miserably, both of his eye beads protruding out, his complexion filled with despair as he pointed at Zhao Wuji and said intermittently, "War, God of war, Zhao Wuji." Pole. As the words fell, the black-clothed old man's breath was completely gone. He had actually died. His body landed on the martial arts arena, bursting out a piece of blood and flesh. It turned out that the bones in his body had long been shattered by Zhao Wuji. The entire square was silent, incredulously looking at this terrifying scene.